Ask the Podcast Coach for January 27th, 2018.
Let's get ready to podcast.
And now we dance. There it is. It's the music. It's Saturday. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from schoolofpodcasting.com. And joining me over there, Mr. Education Podcast himself, TeacherCast, Mr. Jeff Bradbury. Jeff, thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
How you doing, man? It's good to be here.
Good. Today's fun because I have a new mixer. I talked about this last week. And it's one of those where the more simple you keep things, the better. And I'm going back to the old school ways of Ask the Podcast Coach, where I actually have a phone plugged in. I have Jeff plugged in. It's cats and dogs living together. It's mayhem. It's crazy.
Mass hysteria.
Yeah. So, and I'm finding out that, go ahead and say anything, Jeff.
Anything, Jeff.
Excellent. Okay. Because I'm having you come into this. There's a special channel. I bought the AR12 PreSonus. It's got sliders. It's got USB. It's got a built-in SD card. And what's interesting, they have this one thing called like the super channel. Mm-hmm. And I could actually plug my iPad in via Bluetooth. I could plug my iPad in via like headphone jack. And right now, although I think that might have been your Wirecast issue. We're having issues before we started. I now have you coming in via RCA jack coming out of my computer. It's a lot of fun.
You're Frankensteining everything today.
Yeah. So it's, and the other thing that's weird, on one hand, I didn't hate it, but I had a portable recorder over here so I could see the LED lights blinking. Well, now I have to look at my mixer, which is way over there. So it's just a whole thing to get used to. If you do want to call in, it's Lord Hambag, I believe is what Emily figured out last week. It's 567-342-6224. Or if you want to join live, just go to askthepodcastcoach.com/join. I will try to show you the mixer. Realize right now, he said, moving, everybody's getting sick. My office is an absolute disaster. In fact, I have, we'll talk about that. I might get killed here later. But there's the mixer. And you can see it's got multiple sends over here. Ooh, left is right and right is left. And so I am going into channel 1 over here. This one I think is the phone, and that one is the iPad. And then Jeff is coming in via RCA, via the super. Oh, this is so weird. How do weather guys do this? So here's the Bluetooth. It's got all sorts of fun stuff, but it's blinky lights. And then over here, you can see I am recording, hence the red recording light. And it's got mute buttons, which I like. I really missed my mute buttons. So it sounds weird. And I miss sliders. I don't know why that. It must be the musician in me that I like sliders. But yeah.
Does the mixer not go up to 11, Dave?
It does go up to it. Actually, it doesn't. Here's the thing that I don't like about USB mixers. And I usually, when I get them, like right now, I'm not using the USB, but I think that we hit something like a snag that isn't a snag this morning. When I record I use this. The cool thing about it, if I wanted to get super, like I just want to get my geek on right now, I could fire up Hindenburg Journalist and have Jeff in one channel, me in one channel, the phone in one channel, and the iPad in one channel. Between you and me, I don't have enough time to EQ every channel and blah, blah, blah. But it is cool. It sends like 8 different outputs out of it. But here's the thing. I'm got my RE320 into the mixer, into Hindenburg, all the way up. And I'm still not like as loud as I want to be. So I plugged in, and I forget the name of this poor company. The Simple Sound Company, little black 20 dBs of clean gain, which is fine. But I was like, oh yeah, it's a USB device. Cause I mean, I can plug in an ATR 2100 and I'm pretty much got pretty good recording levels just straight into the computer. This, I've got the gain all the way up. I've got volumes like going through the roof, and I can't it's just like this much. It's not a big deal. Again, I'm like the king of good enough audio, but I was like, we are leaving the door this open to have a little more hiss. So, it's so that was the one thing. It does not go to 11. It goes to about 9.5. And I'm like, if we could just go up just a little more, that would be awesome. So, but I am, here's the other thing. Cause I'm like, you know what? This does everything. I'm happy. It's kind of weird now. Cause I got my speakers plugged into it, where I used to have a thing where I could switch between sound coming out of my computer into my speakers or this and that. Now everything goes through the mixer. So I have to have the mixer on 24/7 cause I live in here, during the day, and, it's done this twice. So I'm sure it's going to wait until I have a really important, like right in the middle, Ask the Podcast Coach. And that is the sound card, or whatever you want to call it, just goes and like everything freezes. Like I'm watching HBO. I decided I would actually watch a Harry Potter movie. So I'm watching Harry Potter, and he's flying around. He's doing his thing with his little wand, the whole 9 yards. And all of a sudden, Harry just goes and stops. Now, everything else is fine, but all of a sudden there's no audio. And what I found out I had to do the first time it did it, I turned off the mixer, turned it back on. Harry Potter takes off. Everybody's happy. Second time it does it, I went into the sound card or whatever on a PC, went in and just said, hey, make another sound card the default. And then it went back and made it the default. So basically and it came right back on. So I'm like, I hope that's not a regular occurrence that's going to be happening, but
well, you know how to fix all that, Dave, right?
Buy another mixer.
You go out. I was going to suggest you go out and you buy yourself a brand new iMac Pro. All of these problems will just go away for a mere $8,000.
That's it. So, but if you have any questions, feel free to join us. We're at askthepodcastcoach.com/live, and you can go to askthepodcastcoach.com/join if you want to join via video. If you're like, Dave, I'm in my jammies, feel free to call us at 567-342-6224. That number is on the website out at askthepodcastcoach.com/live. Boy, I got too many slashes going on. Jeff, you know what the story nobody's ever heard from you?
What's the story that no one's ever heard from me? There's a lot of stories that no one's ever heard from me.
Tell the Microsoft story, buddy.
Oh, the Microsoft. Which one?
Well, what are you?
What am I? Well, let's see.
Cool title?
Who am I? Let's see. I am a teacher from New Jersey, and I'm celebrating a couple things. I'm going on my 7th year now podcasting, and I've got a few shows on iTunes and Google Play and all that great stuff. Also have our TeacherCast network is going to be completely relaunching, hopefully at the end of this week, if not next week. And I came here with a sneak peek, Dave. If the audience wants to see what the new website looks like, we can do a little tease here and get a big reveal. Of course, you can find all the stuff over at teachercast.net. I always say, but hold off on that just yet, because Dave, I started with 1,000 posts on the website somewhere in November, and I've got it down to about 35 total left on there. I've been moving everything by hand, re-SEOing, you name it, all of this stuff. And so it's been a big project. But the Microsoft story, I have started working with Microsoft the last couple years. It just started because I got an email that says, hey, we're looking to show off something. And I replied and said, hey, I've got a show. All right, like most of us do. And next thing you know, I've probably done about 100 and some shows with Microsoft. And I am now the official educational podcaster for Microsoft. We do a show called the MIE Spotlight Series podcast. Talks about all the great stuff that's happening in the world of Microsoft Innovative Educators. And I love the relationship that we have. In fact, I'll give you what it looks like right now. But there's the front page of TeacherCast. You can see the last post that we did was a Microsoft show, basically doing a year in review. And well, I won't quite go through and show you the new website yet, but I love working with Microsoft. And the other neat thing is, a couple weeks ago, I had a chance to meet with some of the education team and retail team at one of the local mall stores, and it looks like we're going to be doing some Microsoft TeacherCast stuff in North Jersey at some local malls. So you might be walking by your local mall, and hey, there's Jeff doing some awesome, like, how to podcast on a Windows machine or something like that.
Nice, because you definitely have the cool booth. I remember the first time I met you face to face was at MapCon in a gym. I remember that, and you had this cool big booth and a big backdrop and the whole 9 yards. And
it's taken me around. I've brought that thing to California, to Atlanta, to Chicago, to New Jersey, of course, and having the opportunity to do some of those things, you know. as I go through this relaunch, I'm reorganizing, right? Like that's really what this is all about. Is like, let's step back and get reorganized. So I'm taking all of my shows, building a database, making sure I have contact information. Dave, it's a mess, and that's a show on its own one day. But essentially, you realize that, look, you've worked and helped or been a part of the lives of over 400 ed tech companies, and that's pretty awesome. And then you kind of divide that by how many teachers or administrators have been on, and then you realize what's the student impact. It's been pretty awesome. And so July 11th of this year will be 7 years for TeacherCast. And somewhere around this time is when I joined the team of the guy had a podcast called Your Mac Show, and I joined as one of his co-hosts, and that was 7 years ago. And it's been awesome. And you always do the because of my podcast.
Yes.
Can I make the announcement on here? Is it okay to say this?
You can do whatever you want, buddy. We're live and rocking and rolling.
My wife is officially cancer-free and in remission.
Hold on. We need. Oh. There we go.
And I have no problem saying that's because of my podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
So podcasting cures cancer?
It's you know what? I don't want to give the T-shirts away, right? Like that's a logo coming soon here. The long and short is, and we've talked about this before, and it's been well documented on things like that. But because of my podcast, my wife and I were at the same place at the same time when she went into labor 4 months early. Because of my podcast, we were able to give them the treatment that they need. Because of my podcast, and the fact that they were born early, they were genetically tested. Because of my podcast and all of that stuff, my wife and I were tested, and my wife came out positive for a genetic disorder. And because of my podcast, she then received the treatment to go through chemo, which is where we just were over the last 6 or 7 months. And because of my podcast, we were able to catch all of that stuff before it became anything bigger. And so I will always say, because of my podcast, we're now in remission and cancer-free.
That's very cool.
It's an awesome story.
So that's very, very cool. That's hard to follow up, buddy. Thanks.
How are you, Dave?
Well, hey, I'm wearing a new T-shirt today. I should talk about this. It says, I'm just a podcaster. You can find the T-shirt at justapodcaster.com. And then you turn around, and on the back, which you can't read because it says things like, I'm also the tech guy. I'm also the editor. I'm also this, also that, also, justapodcaster.com. I want to thank Jim Harold.
That's awesome.
Jim Harold is another guy that's he sells a ton of books, does the whole, he has like membership sites. He talks about spooky stories. Find him at jimharold.com.
You know, I was just thinking that if anybody, excuse me, if anybody out there's listening, I'm looking to put together a few T-shirts. I love this design. So if anybody out there's listening wants to help me put some T-shirts together for the new TeacherCast design, please contact me, feedback@teachercast.net. I've got a bunch of logos and stuff that I want to put into T-shirts.
Check out Mark. And I all this time I've been saying Mark DeCoates.
Okay.
He's at, I love live stuff. I just reviewed his podcast, resourcefuldesigner.com. He's a web designer, but he's, if you go to The Real Brian Show, I think it's therealbrianshow.com. He did his website. He's done a bunch. He's a graphic designer, website guy.
Okay.
But I know he's done T-shirts for a couple other folks. And it's not a bad T-shirt. I mean, it's a T-shirt. It's not gonna, I don't expect this to be around in 10 years. I've had crappier T-shirts. Mm-hmm. And he was like, hey, where do I send you a T-shirt? And I'm like, schoolofpodcasting.com/contact.
Right.
And I must not applaud. What's the opposite of applaud? Jeer? Raspberry?
Yeah, you can if you want.
Yeah. My UPS store, which has my PO box. Every time I go in, I go, can we double check that every time something goes in that box, I get an email? And they're like, yep, it's all set up. And so Jim emails me and goes, how do you like the shirt? And I'm like, shirt? And he's like, yeah, I mailed it like 3 weeks ago. And sure enough, I go to the UPS store and there it is, sitting in my box. So I remember the last time I finally got an email from them. I I had Christmas cards. People had sent me a ton of Christmas cards and things, like the awesome Kale Nelson from Ham Radio 360. I got this in like January because they never let me know that I had something in the box. So to anyone,
maybe he was 12 months early.
that was it. He's super efficient, wanted to be the first.
Yes.
And so I did find out, I know we talked, Podcast Movement is currently accepting speakers.
I know.
And I just got an email last night that MapCon
Yes.
is accepting speakers. So
That's MapCon 4.0, I believe, right?
yes, but it's at the same place. I like the fact that Joe is doing it at the same place, almost, I don't know if it's the same time, but I like the fact that it's obviously we all want it to be, every conference wants to be bigger than last year, but Joe's kind of cool with like, nope, I like this room filled. There's plenty of places to kind of meet there. You got a McDonald's and a something else across the street if you want to eat. And then Joe usually brings in food. So it's a cool little,
but I'll tell you, the best part about that hotel,
yeah,
there's a Wawa right next to it.
yes. See, now I'm from Ohio, no Wawa.
Yeah.
So, and what is a Wawa exactly for those who don't know what a Wawa is besides the little kid saying I'm thirsty?
So most people here, and I'll bring up the website here for anybody who can see it. It is podcastmidatlantic.com. A Wawa, most people say it's like a 7-Eleven, but it sometimes has a gas station attached or a deli attached, or so. I guess the average it's a 7-Eleven supersized, I guess, for whatever the lack of term here is. But definitely check that out, Podcast Mid-Atlantic, and yeah, I know I need to put in for Podcast Movement. I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to be, because it's in, I still consider Philly my home area.
There you go. And for anyone who's watching the video, you've got all sorts of fun toys. How are you? Because you're not doing that via the share the screen via Google Hangout or whatever they're calling it this week. So what toy are you playing with there?
Well, when again, the whole website redesign has been a process. So redesigned my studio. I'm actually running Wirecast right now. I love Wirecast. Love me some Wirecast. And when I originally did this studio, it was all over the place. Like everything was kind of all over the. And I was kind of chuckling when you were saying that your mixer is out of reach. I redesigned this so that way right here is my fader for the microphone, and that's all that I need, because this used to be way over there. And as you can see, this has now become a makerspace because we have Legos, and this is where my kids and I design their, that's on
Nice.
Lego at, and we've got have you seen this yet, Dave?
No, I don't think I have. I'm not a big Lego person.
Watch me drop this. This here is called a Lego Boost Kit. Let me see if I can switch this off. This here is a little kitty. It's got some sensors on it,
Oh, there we go.
and it attaches with your iPad, and essentially you build something like this, and there's like 5 or 6 designs. You can build a guitar, you can build a robot, but this is what my 4-year-olds and I have been doing, right? So
Nice.
you make the little kitty, you turn on the iPad, and it mimics you, and it's this is how I'm trying to potty train in 2018, where if they do, I know we're live, but if they do potty, then we play Legos, and so it's pretty
Excellent.
cool. But yeah, this is kind of my redesign here, my Christmas present to myself, and I'm thinking that I should probably take this camera and move it over there. But I bought myself a really nice 34-inch widescreen right here to go along with my 29-inch widescreen, so that way I could be running multiple things, and all that other good stuff is here. So yeah, it's this is kind of the studio, and for anybody who's in the chat, that is the Disney Tree of Life next to Devastator.
Nice.
So-
Devastator. Well, we should clarify. You said 3-year-olds, plural.
I did, didn't I? I'm still so bad at that.
and that means what?
They're 4.
Oh, well, they're 4-year-olds.
They're
is the plural.
4-year-olds. Yes.
Fill in the gap there. How do you have 4-year-olds plural?
I have 4-year-old triplets, and
Yeah.
and
he's a podcaster.
And is a- right, and
How do you
so
do that?
so naturally the question is, how do you do it? And
Yes.
and the answer is, well, what happens when you've got a full-time teaching gig, and you've got a wife going through chemo, and you've got 4-year-olds trying to potty train? How do you do it all? And of course, the answer, Dave, is you decide to redesign your entire network of TeacherCast stuff and do all this other work, right? Just to keep it going. So the 4-year-olds are awesome. I have an opportunity to spend this weekend with them. And when I say I have the opportunity, that means my wife is going to Philadelphia to watch a concert, and I'm stuck. And so it's going to be great. We're going to do a lot of Pinkalicious reading. We're going to do a lot of books. We're going to do, I've got my oldest thinks he's Batman, which is awesome. And if anybody out there, and please, I am watching the chat box here. If anybody knows the PJ Masks, Dave, are you familiar with PJ Masks?
Is that where you get the max for the minimum at PJ Maxx?
No. PJ Masks happens to be a kiddie cartoon on Netflix, where you have two boys and a girl, and when the lights go out, they are crime fighters, and so they put on their pajamas and they turn into the crime fighters. Well, of course, I happen to have two boys and a girl, and so you can imagine what it's like when I have to put them to bed. They don't fall asleep. Right. They literally go into the night to save the day as their catchphrase. And yeah, we don't sleep very much around here, which is how we do a lot of podcast editing.
I was going to say, somebody's asking like, okay, seriously, how does he do that? And I think that's the answer. Jeff doesn't sleep.
Jeff doesn't sleep. So what happens? Well, he's one of the things that I'm working on with this redesign is all of my back audio, which Dave, it's 800 shows. I'm remastering each and every one of them.
Why?
Why? Because I didn't know what I was doing.
That's what I do.
Well, and I got this from you. Like your first 50 shows stink compared to your second 50 shows. So yeah, you kind of throw them back in GarageBand. And look, I'm not doing very much, but everyone's making sure that they're in there.
I'm guilty as charged. I did I'm rebooting More Podcast Money. I want to rewrite some of that book and kind of re-release it this year. Okay. And so I've been doing a new podcast, and I listened to last week's episode, which I recorded a couple weeks ago. And that's when I had my Aphex Master channel, which is still sitting here on the floor next to me. And I'm running through a DBX 286. I've got little things popping and compressing and everything, but it just didn't quite sound the same. And I was like, walking down the stairs going, I still don't like the way that sounds. I'm boosting this and tweaking that. And I'm like, get over yourself. It's like, it sounds fine. The person in the car in the earbuds has no clue that it's just not quite as warm as it used to be. And I was like, well, okay, quit being a podcaster. Stop it. It's fine. So
well, exactly. And I'm going through and re-SE, I'm a believer that we only have one audience member, which is search, right? Like you're redesigning what your pages look like, and what you're just redoing a template, essentially what it is, times 800 shows, Dave. And it's
that's painful, man, just to think about. Here's the fun thing. I switched my web theme or whatever. It's a theme. And my old theme, I forget the name of it, but it didn't use the traditional featured image.
Oh,
so
God.
I have to, it's not hard, but I have to, and luckily most of my episodes have folders where I have all the stuff that I use to make that episode, but I have to upload 602 featured images. And it's the most boring thing. I was watching Scrubs last night as I'm just going edit, click, double click, folder, click, upload, featured image, save, update. Next.
No. And this is where this comes in handy. I kid you not. 3 monitors. They each have WordPress on them, and you're opening up tab. You can just this is how it works. And with me, with this one monitor, I've got GarageBand on one. As it's mastering, I'm over here doing another one. I've got YouTube on the front. And Dave, can I show you what this looks like? I'm so excited about this thing. Ahead, man. So here's the current where I see. Now the one thing about having 3 monitors is you don't remember which one your mouse is on.
Oh, that's got to be fun.
So
you do a lot of this, trying to see if anything's moving.
Exactly. And because they're all they're slightly different resolutions, it's there. So this is our current site. I've had this for the last I think it was 2016. So a year and a half. It's time to redo everything, right?
And that is teachercast.com.
Net. We don't say the C word around here. Because, and here's a true story, and this is one that I'm actually proud of. When I started this back in 2011, teachercast.com, I know this is going to do exactly the opposite. Teachercast.com was being sold for, I think it was $800. And if you go out now and you try to buy that domain, they're trying to sell it for about $3,200. Nice. So I think that means that I'm doing a good job because they're trying to raise the value of the only, but right. I have org and net and info and all this other crap. Anyway, so here's what it is. This has looked wonderful. I love the theme. I love everything about it, but we all know, and you've said this today, there are some things that you just can't do alone and you need some help. So I've partnered up with a friend of ours, Mark Asquith, and Podcast Websites, who we met at MapCon. And this is not the official thing yet, but here's the new one. And I'm so happy about it. I'm so proud of it. There's a few things that are going to be changing, but we're going to do a lot of episodes on what this is and how this whole thing works. But I love the way that this is looking. I love the way that they're helping me come up with a brand. They came up with some, a nice color scheme. We're working together here, and I love how everything flows. When you're looking at different posts, I'll just kind of click on this one here. For instance, everything is very, very clean. I absolutely love it. And so kudos to the team over there. We're going to be doing a lot of work with them. But everything here is looking extremely fantastic. They made up a nice graphic for me here.
Nice.
This one, and the thing I love about them is they kind of said, push us, right? So we're both pushing each other on here. So this, of course, is not me, but right. And that's the hard part. I don't know about you. I don't have good pictures of myself because when I'm presenting, I am the left-handed Italian conductor, so my hands are always all over the place, right?
Nice.
So cool. Really nice stuff here, and right now we're kind of in that back and forth of let's push, let's pull, let's make all this happen. And you know what? When this thing launches, the hope is February 1st, but give or take, it's gonna look. Dave, Podcast Websites is great. I don't want to go overboard on it yet because I'm still trying to get my affiliate link taken care of, but it'll eventually be, teachercast.net/ you should go get your new podcast over here.com or something like that.
Exactly. And we have Molly on the line. Molly, thanks for joining us.
Molly, how are you?
I didn't know if I was doing that right. I feel like
you're awesome. I was just, what's going on?
Hey, I want to say that I downloaded like a bunch of episodes and I've been just binging on this show.
Thank you.
It's so good. And thank you for what you do. You're so patient first. I mean, with all the repeat questions and the, oddball questions. So
that's what I do. Literally, I do that all day. It lives in flight.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, but what can I help you with?
Well, I have a few questions. First,
awesome.
Also, you guys had been talking about the Samson Go mic I think it was recently because I've listened to them backwards and it was a while ago I heard.
Okay.
It's a little mic that clips on. So this is it. I just wanted to show you. I have it here.
Oh, yes. I've seen that.
Yeah. I don't use it much. So how does it sound? Does it sound okay?
Is that what you're using now? I don't think so. Really?
What's that?
So if you tap on that right now, the little Go mic.
Is that not it?
No, you're using the microphone built into your computer would be my guess.
Oh, I set it up earlier. Maybe somehow it disconnected. Well, then if I can get that done while I'm asking a question, then you can tell me how it sounds.
I was going to say right now it's picking up a lot of room noise, but
it's not use this device.
Welcome to the lovely world of whatever this is called, YouTube Live, Google Hangouts.
Yeah, it was definitely on before, but that's okay. But you got to see it. Such a cute little guy.
Well, it's $32. You can't beat it for the price.
I don't even think I paid that much for it. But yeah, it's pretty. I don't use it normally, so I would be curious to see how it sounds. But anyway, the one question that I have is I would like to start doing some. I don't have a Zoom, but I'd like to start doing a little more portable setup. Right now, I do everything. I do travel to all my guests and. But I bring my laptop and my Yeti, which is working fine, but I'd like to do more kind of like man on the street kind of stuff.
What kind of phone do you have?
I have Android.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kim, help me. What's the I don't know if I know on an iPhone you can buy this thing called a camera kit, which basically takes the lightning port to a USB and then you can plug like an ATR 2005 2100 in via USB, and then you just basically use your phone as a portable recorder, and you just do the Bob Barker kind of thing.
So wait, I can plug what into it?
You can plug a USB microphone. So this is an ATR 20. This is an ATR 2005, or is this the ATR 2005? This is the ATR 2005. And it's got a little thing here where you can plug it into a mixer, but you can also plug it in via USB.
Okay.
And on an iPhone, you can plug that in. And then somebody says, yeah, an iRig. You can plug, there's a little thing that lets you plug in. Is that what Jeff is holding up? What are you holding up, Jeffrey?
Well, I got to say, I love the iRigs. I talk about them a lot. I push them a lot. And I think they're anywhere between $35 and $60, depending on where you go. I purchased this. Have you tried the Raspberry yet?
I've heard of it.
Now, I'm not going to say that the price is perfect because it starts with a 1 and has a 99 after it. But
ouch.
But this is the only mic that I found, and a good mic that automatically comes with 2 different plugs, one that goes into your computer and one that goes into Lightning. So this is a microphone to Lightning microphone. These are awesome. I've been using this a lot. And it's really small. I mean, literally, you can stick it in your front pocket. And I've done this one in conferences, and it also folds out so that way, if you want to sit at a table across from somebody, it records, front and back. It is
interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's a condenser mic. So I've done the 2005s. I've done the iRigs, but by far this has been awesome to use.
Okay.
Now, is that the fun thing is that going to work with an Android?
Yes, because it's microphone to USB, microphone to Lightning, microphone to whatever. It just got the connections to it.
Oh, nice.
And also, I will say, and this is not a plug, their service is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I have a Yeti, and I had to get it replaced under the warranty, and they were terrific. I mean, they were perfect.
Nick in the chat room, he used a Tascam DR40. He was talking about that last week. That's like 179, and that's a little bit like, I don't know where my H5 is. It's like it's like one of these, only it doesn't, where this, you can use it as a USB interface. Mm-hmm. This just has the Taser microphones, but you could plug in your microphones down here.
Yeah. What's that one?
This is a Zoom H5. Nick has the Tascam DR40, and the DR40 is a lot like this, except this works as a USB interface, and the Tascam does not.
Okay. I also have a little, so that probably answers my question that you.
Well, the other thing you can do if you're on a budget, now this obviously is not a phone, but I've done interviews like this where I'll be like, I'm talking with Molly here on the floor of such and such, and what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And I'll just do this with the phone and use the built-in voice recorder.
Yeah.
It's not obviously the best thing, but I've been really surprised at the quality of that. Mm-hmm. And I always just call attention to the fact that, hey, I'm on the floor at Walmart talking with a shopper and, whatever. I would just announce where I'm at. Yeah. Just so,
gives a little ambiance. Yeah. I have the, just this little Olympus recorder too.
Yep.
And I don't know if that, I mean, is it any better than using the phone, or is the phone going to be just as this is older than my phone. Yeah. So
I think the phone would probably be a little better, usually just because I think the phone has maybe a little better microphone into it.
Okay. And there's no, is there any need to look at, just to put like in the headphone jack, a microphone that goes in the headphone jack or something like that? Is that probably not as good a quality?
As not as good a quality as
just using the phone itself.
Oh,
is that going to improve it at all?
It might, depending on what kind of microphone you're if you're plugging in one of these, yeah, it's going to sound a little better. But
and if I use adapters for that, is that something to look into, or is it? Or is there a thing about adapters degrading the sound just in themselves?
I haven't found any huge degradation in it. I try to avoid adapters into adapters into adapters. So if you're like, oh yeah, if you take this, plug it into that goes into that and that, because what that does is that gives so many chances for something to come unplugged.
Opportunities for failure. Yeah. Okay.
So, and then Kim says you have to check the memory. She says her phone will run out of space much faster than my digital recorder. That's a good point. Yeah, especially if you got a lot of videos and things of that, photos, things of that nature.
There's a good way around that one too.
And that is?
Google Photos.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, especially on Android. Heck,
they're backed up automatically, so I can just delete everything.
It backs up automatically and deletes the stuff that's on there without you having to worry about it.
Yeah, and Emily says this is another good, if you just want a little portable recorder, the Zoom H1 is about $80. It's about the size of a Snickers bar, and it has a line in, and you can buy a cable like this. It has the little kind of line in on this side and an XLR on this. I've done that before.
Okay.
And you just kind of do one of these. I used the Roland R-05 many moons ago, and I would just plug this into the mic in and go to town. So
okay, that's kind of what I was picturing too, because I have like a headset mic that would be really nice to use, but
yeah.
I didn't know if the adapter would make it.
No, usually most of the time it's, they're kind of designed to do it because everybody has different phones and connectors. And
do you default to Audio Technica for looking for stuff like that, or you just kind of shop around for different?
I usually it's just one of those things. I don't default to Audio Technica. It just happens that everybody I know says, hey, like I know Nick's really big on the Tascam. Well, I used to use Tascam stuff all the time when I was doing music stuff. So it just so happened, I don't know how I found the Audio Technica ATR 2100. It's just that I've compared it to like everything else, and it's like for the money, it's hard to beat. There is this now.
One of those at their warehouse sale.
Yeah. What's hilarious is this is an Audio Technica ATR 2005. This is a Knox microphone, and this one's 80 and this one's 40, and literally it's the same microphone. This one might have a little better, and if you take them apart, I'm sure there's maybe a little difference.
Yeah.
But sound wise, if you put this, if you take these, the 2100 and the Samson Q2U, there's not a whole lot of difference.
Yeah.
That, the nice thing about the ATR 2100 is it has a lifetime warranty. So for some reason you drop it down the steps, you could mail it back, or
I wouldn't put that past me.
Yeah. So,
hey Dave, when it comes to looking at recommendations and equipment, does the website kit.com mean anything to you?
Yes, it does. If you go to kit.com, actually, what is me? I think it's kit.com/podcast coach. Guessing. Kit.com/podcast coach will take you right to my Kit page.
Say that again. It cut out.
Kit.com, just KIT.com/podcast coach. And you'll see where I don't have things there for mobile though. I have things for if you're a solo podcaster doing interviews, a solo podcaster just doing it in a room by yourself, multiple hosts in the same room. I don't have a mobile setup though. I should come up with a kit for that.
So for anybody who's out there, let me see if I can pull this one up. There is Dave Jackson's kit.com/podcast coach. I turn this will eventually, I've got all my stuff on here too. This is, solo podcasting, nice. 2 hosts, multiple hosts. Dave, I love how you have all this in here. And of course it shows how many people are looking at it. Kit.com is great. This is just a small plug. This is the one that we created here for TeacherCast. So I've got here all the books, my podcasting equipment, but then I broke this out into hard drives, audio cables, gizmos, cameras, nice. Printers. And, if you're looking to put one of these for yourself, for your own show, these are all affiliate links. So you can connect to Amazon or to B&H or literally anything that you want. Like I've got favorite websites here, and eventually I'm just going to, put a whole bunch of stuff on here. These are all embeddable. These are all HTML. So in other words, I can just grab this and I can make a blog post or make a podcast out of this. And of course, as I come on over here, I can do whatever I need. So you guys are out there looking for a little bit of passive income, but also to do some of this research here. I mean, here's everything that Dave has, and check it out, kit.com.
And yours is what? Kit.com/teachercast? Yeah,
eventually I'm going to call it teachercast.net/equipment, but that's going to happen after I make the switch.
Got it.
Because, I even everyone asks, what do you use? Well, here it is. And it's not go to B&H or go to Amazon, and it's like everything is right here. And it's not just equipment. It could be books. It could be websites. It could be tips and tricks. It could be, literally it's everything. And it pulls the images up, or it also, you can put your own images up. And then basically for each of these, you put a description on. So let's see if you've described anything here, Dave. So here is a mic, and it says a great microphone. It works with a mixer straight. So this looks like something you might have wrote. Right. And then I can add a comment here that says, hey, whatever the comment is. So really, really awesome stuff here. And then view on Amazon, of course, I'm sure that puts some kind of a cookie on your website. But now I can go, and if I purchase that microphone, Dave gets a penny.
Here's the thing that always makes me confused. How does kit.com stay in business? And it kind of says that if you don't put affiliate links, they will put their affiliate links.
Right.
So I get that, but to me, I'm always kind of like, that's a weird business model.
Yeah.
But, on the other hand, it's easy for me and it makes me money. So, okay. So, yeah. Ma, anything else we can help you with?
Actually, I do have one more question. Sure. So I know that are you on a network now, or you're not anymore?
I'm on my own network. I'm on I'm on powerofpodcasting.com, shows all my shows. Jeff, what about you, buddy?
I am an island of one, but I also run 9 different podcasts. So I've kind of created my own
network. Same thing. Yeah. That's what I did.
So I'm a baby beginner podcaster, but I have a friend. I have a couple more ideas for shows, and a friend who has an idea or two for shows. What goes into, or what should I consider if I am thinking of starting a podcast? Because they're all similar values and similar sort of themes.
Like going into a network,
or starting a network.
Number one, people should be able to join your network and leave your network, and not like, oh my gosh, they own my feed and I can't leave now. So that would be the one thing. Any kind of branding, who owns the name, that whole 9 yards. So for me, if I was making a network, it would be all about cross promotion. So what you bring is what you bring, and if you want to leave, you leave with exactly what you brought. Mm-hmm. And then you always want to, if there's any kind of money stuff going on, that has to be discussed up front. Because if you go, oh, we're just friends, I've known them since 6th grade, we don't have to worry about that. The minute money shows up, things are going to get weird, because you're going to like, what do you mean you get 60%? I mean, I'm doing all the stuff and you're doing it, and it just gets weird. So, Jeff, am I forgetting anything? What would you think?
I think it's a matter of what's the purpose of it. So, for instance, Dave and I could be the Pod Tech Coach network, right? And it's just saying, hey, on my show, I'm going to promote Dave, and on Dave's show, he's going to promote me, and occasionally we might do this co-hosting thing. Hey, we're all friends. That's completely different than saying, Dave, you want to make some money together. Let's put this thing together the right way, right? So, they work and they don't work. I didn't say it earlier, but one of the things that I'm doing when I go back and remastering is I was in a network for like 30 of my episodes or so, but it was not an educational network. And what I found is, the way that they were working is every episode you do, promote one of our shows, but they didn't tell you, randomly pick somebody's show and doing it.
Yeah.
Well, what I didn't realize was that they, as a collective, were not promoting my educational show. They were promoting their own shows.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I'm remastering it, I'm just taking out that front bumper that says, hey, you're part of the... Because, A, that network doesn't exist and hasn't for 4 years. Right. So a lot of it is, how do you figure out some of these things? Are you looking at just having a few friends get together, or are you looking at making a business run here?
I mean, it would just be for organization. We can, helping each other out and editing, together, and because it's sort of a theme, and
I would say, and this is 7 years here, Dave, and help me out with this one. Make sure that you guys all have a common goal. Mm-hmm. Okay. One of the things that I talk a lot about and that I'm guilty of running into is we have a show with multiple co-hosts. Well, Jeff is the one that's looking to grow this as a business venture. They just want to have a podcast on a Thursday night, and that they have an hour of their time that they want to give. Jeff is saying, we want to bring in sponsors, and they're like, our goals don't line up.
Yeah.
So if you want to make a podcast network and you want to go for it, and you say Dave, and Dave's like, yeah, maybe Dave isn't for you.
Right.
Right. So make sure that you've got similar goals and stuff, because you always look at the end before you look at the beginning sometimes.
Right.
And that's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah. Make sure everybody's on the
way down the line. So
yeah, and just I think the thing that causes problems is when is like what Jeff said, when you have different expectations. So if you can say, here's the purpose of this, and like I know Steven and SP are on gunnygeek.com. That's a network. And they have a bumper at the beginning that says, hi, I'm so-and-so from the such and such show on the Gunny Geek Network. And you're going to listen to this show, and blah, geekiness starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. And so it's just a little pre-roll that they put on to promote their website. So that's, I think, all they do. And they have some sort of like vetting process. Like if you want to join it, you submit it to it, And I think everybody else on the network has to agree or disagree whether that person comes on. And I'm sure there are some rules there that like, here's how you get kicked off.
Yeah.
So, you know, that kind of thing. So if you can kind of get that out loud, but I think in the end, like, I think I've had one person in the last 3 years that said, oh yeah, I went over and checked out powerofpodcasting.com. I didn't realize you had other shows. And that's the only reason I started it, is people said, well, what are your other shows? Well, instead of saying, well, I got weekly web tools and logical weight loss and ask the podcast coach and blah, 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 I just went powerpodcasting.com.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes sense to put it all in one space. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for what you do. I'm going to hop off in case someone
do you want to share any social links, Twitter feeds, anything like that?
StarkDifferencePodcast.com is my website. You can find Stark Difference Podcast on Facebook, and my overarching Twitter and Instagram would be Errant Molecule, ERRANTMOLLYCULE. Not complicated at all.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much for popping in.
All right.
And before I forget, Jeff, let me give a couple quick shout outs here to Jonathan Bloom over at weeklyawesome.com, Glenn the Geek at horseradionetwork.com, Josh Rivers from Creedus. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm giving his wrong address. I'm waiting for Patreon to update, podcastingexperiments.com, the one and only Max Trescott from aviationnewstalk.com, and Shane from Spybrary. I always have to think when I have to say that. Spybrary, like library, only it's spies. And if you would like to be an awesome supporter of the Ask the Podcast Coach show, simply go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome, and you can be an awesome supporter. Thank you so much for everyone. And Jeff, do you do the Patreon thing?
You know what? No.
That's okay. It's not for everybody.
I have other ways to do it, and no, I've never wanted to get into any of that stuff.
It's there if you want it. My mixer's much louder than my microphone. That's good to know. I'm still playing with this. Yeah, I think my microphone is really, well, number one, I do this a lot. This is the one thing I've noticed. I have to be on the microphone with this particular mixer to make the little lights blink. And we do, how are we doing on time? Good. We actually have a question that somebody sent in. This is from Jeremy, and it goes a little something like this.
Hi, Dave. This is Jeremy from the Transmissions Podcast. I used AdWords for something years ago, well before I had a podcast, and Google sent me a free AdWords credit this week to try to get me back. I'd like to use this credit to promote my podcast, but I'm not sure what the best way to do that would be. Should I have the ads point to the main page of my site, or my subscribe page, or maybe create a landing page in WordPress specifically for the ad to point to? I was wondering if you could help with that question and if you had any more suggestions. Thanks. I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Jeremy. And can we take a quick 10-second tangent? Because this is going to it's bugging me. I just looked over and my record button is no longer recording. Yay, new stuff. Woo! So we'll be using the Google audio from this, or the something from whatever that thing's called, Mixler. So back to Jeremy's question. Have you ever done the Google AdWords, Jeffrey?
I have. I've got a lot of ideas for his question here that have nothing to do with AdWords, but will completely help his stuff out. Facebook ads I'm looking into. Google ads I'm looking into. Here's my first question that I would ask Jeremy, or that I would bring him, I would bring to him is everything in your website as great as it can be when it comes to your Yoast settings, your search engine settings? What does your search console look like? In other words, are you set up for this? I see a lot of people that get, and I've gotten into, like, here's a free $100, go use it. But you could throw money in a direction, but your website is not set up for what it needs, right? So for instance, Google is going to say, oh, you're going to get a lot of traffic over the next couple weeks. But if it's not set up to start moving your searches higher, site-wide, then you're really only pointing to one page. You really want to make sure that your site is as good as possible globally before you start throwing money in advertising, because the advertising is going to get me to go to one page. So in other words, schoolofpodcasting.com/live. Great. But what if I want to learn about mixers? I want to make sure that the mixers tab is also as SEO perfect, and that's I do a lot of search engine coaching. I do a lot of Yoast coaching, things like that. Make sure that your website is as good as it can be before you spend any money.
Yeah, I would. The fun part of that is, like, I have some people that will buy a Facebook ad and they'll send them to iTunes. Well, that's great unless they're an Android user. So I would say, what are you trying to get? Are you trying to get more subscribers? Then maybe set up a page with a playlist so people can listen to your stuff, with then directions to say, hey, thank you so much for coming to the page. Here's what the show's about, and here's how you subscribe. If you're on an iPhone, click here. If you're on an Android, click here. And just make sure that page is ready to take. Because if you just send somebody to iTunes, that's like if you hand me, I don't know, a cricket bat. I don't know that I would even recognize what a cricket bat is. So sending me a cricket bat is not going to be very useful because I don't know what to do with it. But if you send me to a cricket bat with directions that says swing and hit the ball or whatever it is you do with cricket, then I might use it. So you have to be careful, kind of what Jeff says. You have to be ready for that. So they're not just lighting $100 on fire and going, well, I sent a bunch of people there. I don't know what happened. And that's kind of the hard part about a podcast. There's no way to know what they did.
Right.
Did your numbers go up? Or is that because you spent money or, so, but I know people love to send people to iTunes, and I'm like, why not? Because a lot of people listen to stuff on iTunes, but I'm always the question, are more people listening on iTunes because that's all we talk about? Or is it actually that more iTunes listeners, more Apple people listen to podcasts? I'm like, because they get a lot of love from people. And I'm like, if we'd been sitting around for 12 years going, listen on Android, rate and review on Android, would be in the same boat. I don't know. So
I would never send anybody to iTunes because in the education world, and this is the teacher in me coming out, teachers say, click here to visit YouTube video. Well, what happens is the kid goes to the YouTube video, maybe watches it for 30 seconds, then they're in the YouTube loop. I always tell the teacher, put that video on your website so that way all of the information's there. We all have a page, I hope, that says how to subscribe, exactly what Dave just said. How to subscribe, here's the iTunes, here's the Google Play, you name it. Keep them within your ecosphere. If I go out to iTunes looking for Dave's show, I might find 13 other shows that I like better. And that doesn't help me any, and I just now spent my AdWords.
Yeah. In the chat room, I just put it, does anyone have an opinion on the need to spend money to get a hobby podcast trademarked or copyright? In theory, the minute you publish something, it's copyrighted. If you actually go and get it copyrighted, then you have a legal flag in the sand that says, yep, that's mine. But in theory, if somebody said, hey, I'm going to trademark School of Podcasting, I can go back and say, nope, sorry, since 2004, I've been putting out content under that. Now, the fun part is I have to do that in court, which is not free. But even if so in a way, if you have a trademark and you can show somebody the paperwork that says, hey, right here, 2017, I had that trademarked. In theory, you should stop them from taking you to court. I don't know.
Well, that's why I'm not worried about the teachercast.com because look, and it's the, I don't know the exact legal terms, but if you type in TeacherCast, you're going to find me. Now, if Dave Jackson and his, 8,500 domains, if you decide to purchase that and you want to set up the TeacherCast podcast at teachercast.com, okay, there might be some grounds that says I've already set TeacherCast up as an identity. I have .org, .net, .mobi, .info, you name it. I've cornered the word TeacherCast. You're not allowed to use that, even though legally you bought the domain and you're making it. You know where I'm going with that?
Right.
So I agree with you. We do have some other good questions here in the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to say everybody's chiming in the questions. We've got 4 minutes left.
I want to hit this one here that Kim just brought up. And she says, I talked to a person already. Bottom line, her last thing is, I found my competitor. Dave, do you consider podcasting to be competitors? And I'm asking you that because there's so many, quote, podcast gurus out there. You, Dave, Daniel, you name it. Are you competitors in the space, or are you just of the mindset, hey, everyone's different?
I don't consider, in fact, I love my competition. They've brought me a lot of business.
Is there a difference between competition and competitor in this world? And I know you and Ray are friends, and I know you and Daniel are friends.
I don't. And here's why I don't think that here's why I don't treat them like competitors or things like that. If we are all on Mondays at 7:30, that'd be a problem. But because you can listen to me on Monday, you can listen to Daniel on Tuesday, you can listen to Ray on Wednesday, you You can listen to Mike Dell on Thursday. You can listen to Cliff on Friday. You can listen to Eric K. Johnson on Saturday. I don't consider them competition. And also, I realized, like, if you want more F-bombs in your podcasting, then go check out piratebay.net. Scott is a new podcast I discovered, and he loves the F word and all the other words that, you know, and he even said in his last episode, he attracts people that like to drop the F-bomb and things of that nature. So I don't. Do you consider people like that competition?
I don't. I'm a big believer that everybody here, you know, I would openly promote anybody, and there's always a different flavor.
Yeah. I tell you what, we just got joined by Barry, and Barry, we are going to save you for post show. So hang tight just a second as we start to wrap things up. Man, I tell you, it goes quick. And he said hitting the wrong thing. So I appreciate everybody putting up with my fun-filled new mixer here. I'm dying to see why it's not recording. It could be that the SD card is full or something like that. But we're here every Saturday at askthepodcastcoach.com/live. And if you have a question, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, you can always just call the man. It's 888-563-3228, which I realize now is confusing because that's a different number than the one we gave earlier. So we'll have to fix that. And if you, yeah, now I've lost my train of thought. Jeff, where can people find you?
Dude, it's loud in here.
Okay.
Where can you find me? You can find me on teachercast.net, coming to you live. We're going to be relaunching February 1st. Find me on Twitter at teachercast, or leave a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail.
Let's fix this, shall we? So how's that? Is that better?
No.
No?
There you go. It's that now you're getting it. But yeah, you can find me over on teachercast.net. Like I said, we're going to be relaunching early February here, hopefully February 1st, with our good friends over at Podcast Websites. I want to give them a shout out, podcastwebsites.com. Check them out.
Awesome. I'm still playing with the music. This is the joys of live. That's probably better right about there, right? I'm thinking.
Borderline.
Borderline. Really?
Yeah.
It's the fun part of having two mixers. And you know what's great is this is going to sound wonderful on Google. Because they're going to compress the schnot out of it.
Well, we can fix this. Can you add more reverb?
Yeah. What we could also do is we could turn Dave up. Remember, you could always turn things down, or you could just turn Dave up. That would work. So thanks so much for tuning in. AskThePodcastCoach.com/live. School of Podcasting this week. We'll be talking about websites and themes. And for those of you that are here live, stick around. We're going to be doing some post-show. And just for giggles, I'm putting in a different SD card. It says record, doggone it. It blinks, it turns red. Okay, I think we're good. So let me unmute Barry. It's not letting me unmute you. Maybe you have to unmute yourself. If you click on the little mute button at the top of the screen.
That's it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. It's not using that microphone, but that's all right. We can deal with it.
All right.
If you want, if you go up to the top and click on the little gear, and you'll see where it says microphone, and you can tell it to use your ATR 2100 because right now it's using your camera mic.
I got it. There's gear. There's the gear.
We'll see how that works. Maybe, maybe not.
I don't know.
That's all right. We'll just go with what you got.
Okay. All right. So here's my question for you. I have a show that kind of pod faded. It was actually you helped me set it up. It was a real estate related one, and it doesn't show up on iTunes anymore. But it's on Listen, and I have a website. If I were to start putting episodes up, would iTunes see me again?
What you'd want to do is go into podcast.connect. I'm sorry, let's back that up. podcast.apple.com, your podcast should be listed in there. And if it's not in there, it should say why it's not. So if it says something like, problem with your feed, then look at what that feed is and then just kind of reverse engineer it and go back and say, okay, why did this go bad? Did a plugin cause a problem, or, whatever it is? And then once you fix that problem, and there's a website called castfeedvalidator.com that you can put that feed in, and it'll tell you if it's valid or not. We used to use feedvalidator.org for years. They have not updated. So you can put a completely valid feed into feedvalidator.org. And if it has the new iTunes stuff, it'll say it's invalid because it doesn't know what those are, where a cast feed validator does. Once you get it valid, you just email podcasts, again with an S. They love the plural thing. Podcasts support. So you're going to have two S's back to back. Podcast support at apple.com and say, hey, I had a podcast. I had a problem with my feed. You pulled it. I have gone back and fixed the problems with my feed. Here's a link to Cast Feed Validator because they give you a link when you're valid. It's valid. Can you please reactivate my show? And then from there, then it's just a matter of putting out a new episode and you're back in business.
Okay. So would it be smarter? So here's what I wanted to do also was to redo each show because the audio has gotten better. My skills have gotten a little bit better. So I wanted to do each one and redo them. And I was thinking maybe either replacing them in Libsyn like that, or just saying, screw it, let's just start a whole new show. What would you suggest would be best?
Start a new show.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's up to you. I did the thing. I just did this with More Podcast Money. Half the stuff that I was talking about in the past, in some cases, those resources don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So right. I just pulled them down and I just said, you know what? And I basically put up the first new episode and then pulled all the old ones out because you don't want to leave your feed with no episodes because that then makes it invalid. So, because if you replace all the old ones, now you're hoping people go back and find it. I don't know. Jeff, you've been kind of doing this. So
here's the question. Is your content evergreen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meaning, or is it just, what, tell me again, what was your show what show topic? What are you guys talking about?
It's a real estate related show. It's basically tutorials on buying and selling real estate. So,
okay.
Yes, it's evergreen. And
so I've got two suggestions for that. If it's something that you feel people are going to go back and listen to, meaning if you were recording back in 2015, no one's going to listen to that stuff again, just to be clear about that. But let's say that in 2015, when you launched that show, you had really nice, search engine and you had a nice blog post and there's all the keywords. I would say bring that up to date, which is what I'm doing. Put the audio on the blog post. But does that have to be on iTunes? Because no one's going to go back through that catalog. So don't bother with that. So there's a lot of posts that I'm actually updating and putting the audio on. But when you go to iTunes, you're not going to see it. But for Google, they're going to see the words real estate and duplex and all those different things, right? So I'm doing it for a lot of strategic reasons. But if you haven't podcasted in a year or 2 years, and evergreen or not, the topics are just dated. I'd rather come to your website and say, hey, the new schoolofpodcasting.com is here.
Okay.
I would focus on, and Dave, I'd like to get your opinion on this, your description in iTunes, like the SEO things that are going to get people to find and search for you, both in iTunes and out of iTunes. Dave, what's your suggestion on iTunes podcast descriptions, the things that you put in like PowerPress that pop out?
Well, let me back up 1 second because I disagree with one thing you said.
Good.
You said nobody's going to go back and listen to your back catalog. Molly just said she found Ask the Podcast Coach and went and listened to our back catalog. So now I understand what Jeff is saying. If you have 400 episodes in the back no. But they will go back and listen to some of them.
Right. Make them findable. Make them findable is what I'm saying.
The thing that does not work in iTunes, and I see this all the time, the name of the episode is the whole word episode 16. Barry Kessler is God. And the problem is nobody sees the title because episode 16 is taking up half. That drives me bonkers. And Apple now in Libsyn has a section that says iTunes optimization. And the whole point of that is, and the other thing is, let's say it's the Barry Kessler show. And so it says Barry Kessler show. episode spelled out, 16 spelled out in some cases as in SIXTEEN. Barry Kessler's got, you don't see any of that. And so the whole iTunes optimization is, hey, please quit putting the name of your show in the title, because if you think about when you look at a show in the podcast app, you've got the artwork right there with the name of the show. So you don't need to put the name of the show again. Right. And then nobody really cares that it's episode 16. So make those titles something. I had somebody this week, they do a show about entertainment. It's kind of a, entertainment and what's in the news. What is the word I'm thinking of here? But anyway, and it was just their last names. It was like, Jackson and Jeff. And I was like, okay, you might want to put : entertainment news and blah, blah, blah. I said, because if somebody types in entertainment news, you don't have those keywords in the title of your show. And from what I understand, iTunes looks, and when I say iTunes, you say Apple Podcasts, because I just can't remember to say that. Apple/iTunes. They look at the title of the podcast, they look at the title of the episodes, and then they look at the author, from what I've heard. So, yes.
So I agree with Dave. One of the things that I like to preach is, and this is weird, for every one of my podcast posts, I have 5 different titles for it. One is the blog post title, and that's because that's what gets tweeted out when somebody hits the social button. So that would be learn how to make your podcast look awesome, right? Then there's what I put into Yoast, which could be podcasting tips, how to make your podcast look awesome. Then there's what I put into Blueberry PowerPress, which is like awesome podcasting tips. And then there's the actual file name. So I agree with Dave. When you're actually doing your what goes out in front of people, say how to make your podcast look awesome, School of Podcasting, right? Because you want to get that stuff in there. But, and this is where I haven't heard people say this yet, when you're actually naming your audio files, do the abbreviation first. So for instance, I do TeacherCast Podcast. I'm making sure that each one of my audio files says TCP 101. TCP 102. That way, when I'm in Finder, it searches, it organizes it in there. Does that make sense, Dave?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm reversing the concepts, so that way I can find and search for things.
Yeah, I have a whole thing on the School of Podcasting about organizing your podcast. And my folder structure is I have a folder called podcasts, because I have multiple ones. And then I have a folder for the show. So you have School of Podcasting. And then in that folder, there's one folder called production. So, and that has my intro, my outro, my artwork, and anything I would play in every episode is in that folder. That way, if I ever want to do something on the road, I can just copy the production folder to an SD card or a USB drive, and I'm good to go. Or I could throw it in Dropbox. It's all that stuff is online. So if I ever need to make an episode somewhere that's not at my desk, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Then I have a folder called episodes. And in the episodes folder, I have 001, 002. And so if Jeff's on episode 3, I have the interview with Jeff. And then once I edit it, I have the edited version of Jeff. And then I've got, again, any artwork, anything like that I use to make episode number 3. So that if for some reason the world blows up and I lose all copies of episode 3, I can go back to that folder and recreate it. And then I have a folder called finished. So after I've made episode 3 and it's all done and everything's pretty, and I export that, I put it in the finish folder. And some people will make 2 versions. Somebody will make an MP3 version, and then some people will make a WAV or a FLAC version, which is lossless. It has better quality, not to give to your public, but just so for some reason you ever want to do a best of show, you're not editing an MP3 file. But that's
and all of that you have backed up on Dropbox, on a RAID,
I have it on. I use Backblaze, backs up all my stuff, and then I even have I think I usually go back later and take the episode folder and throw that on Dropbox, just because if I ever want to go back, it's just that second thing. But you'll be amazed that by having that organized, it just makes it easier to go, because okay, well, I'm looking for the theme music, that's going to be in the production folder. And also then, if you're working on an episode, so let's say it's Tuesday and I'm working on an episode and it's my interview with Jeff, I can put that in episode 605, even in the folder. Or if it's going to be 2 weeks from now, it's 606. And so you kind of go into those folders and go, oh yeah, there's that episode with Jeff. I forgot that's what I'm doing this week. So you can kind of plan ahead that way. But
I'm doing something similar with that. I'm looking through my Finder with my new stuff. I'm actually on my hard drive. It says TCP 101, and that used to be what it is. Now it says TCP 101, Dave Jackson, podcasting equipment. So that way I can at least go back through my Finder and go, I want all of my shows that have to do with podcasting equipment, and then pop, there's everything, instead of me search. Because sometimes that's faster than going to your WordPress website and then finding and then finding and then finding. So
yeah, that's a good, and I love the fact that you do your little abbreviation. That way everything still lines up in order.
Yes, but I would never put the abbreviation on iTunes. Again, you've only got so many characters.
Right. Yeah. I've had people that have literally like really increased their downloads just by changing the title of the episode, because it used to be episode 16.
When you're looking at a podcast description, it says up to 5,000 characters. Are you just copying your entire blog post and putting it up there, or is it strategic? Because I would never copy my entire blog post into YouTube. No one reads all that stuff.
Right.
But it's search engine.
I've seen some that are really long, and I've seen people see, I write for people. That's the one thing I always try to do. Because I've seen people like inspired by John Lee Dumas and Zig Ziglar and Pat Flynn. And I'm like, what I did, and this doesn't mean you have to do this. I asked my audience, I think recently, and like I see right now, I want to change this. Established in 2005. Nobody cares.
Right.
If you want to learn about podcasting, this is the show for you. It's been described by many as the most entertaining and unique of all the podcasts about podcasting. That came from a listener's mouth. Dave Jackson gets to the point and talks about podcasting. We discuss ways to plan a successful launch that will get you ranked high in iTunes and find the best gear on a budget, developing content that leaves people wanting more. This is already getting way wordy.
Right.
He's been helping people understand technology and has been called the Analogy King. I have no idea when I wrote this. His style is edutainment, and you'll always walk away with useful knowledge and insights. That came from a listener's mouth. Dave Jackson is the original. If you don't like the first episode you hear, give him 2. I have to change this. This is horrible. So I tried. My idea was, if I describe my show in the words of my listeners are typing that stuff in. Although I don't know that somebody's typing in entertaining podcast about podcasting.
Now, do you suggest copyright 2018, or do you say copyright 2008 to 2018, or doesn't matter?
I've never really even thought about that, to be honest with you.
I'm one of those that if I look at your website and at the bottom, it says copyright 2013. I'm going, okay, has it been updated in the last 5 years?
I should just put 2005 to eternity.
The Google symbol of the
exactly.
The infinity loop.
My title is School of Podcasting - Learn to Plan, Start, and Grow Your Podcast. So that's my extent of keyword stuffing.
Okay, so basically what you're telling us, Dave, is this weekend when I'm refreshing all of my stuff, I should not use your thing as an example.
Do not use me as an example.
Okay.
If I would go back again, I don't know that I see a lot of people do this. They love to explain how the sausage was made. I don't think anybody cares that I've been around since 2005. The only reason I put that there is to show that I've, wow, this guy's got experience, but there are other ways to say that. So I saw somebody literally had 3 paragraphs of a description for their show, and I just was like, nobody's going to read that. It needs to be, here's what you're going to get. Here's how you're going to benefit from listening to the show.
So just so we're all clear, more podcast info, less sausage.
Yeah, I would think.
Okay.
And just I always try to, and I'm really looking at that going, wow, that was not good. Picture your target audience sitting now looking at iTunes. What are you going to put in that description that makes them go, oh, I want to listen to this?
Here's a question from the chat. On iTunes where it says website, is that the front page of your website? Is that the category that has all your podcasts? Is that your About Me page? What do you suggest there?
Yes.
Thanks.
Well, as always in podcasting, it depends. Are you trying to sell a product? Well, then maybe you send them to the page where they can buy. Right. That's a little forward. Hi, buy my stuff. You can send it to whatever you want. I usually send them just to the page and then have a design page where people can listen and they don't go, what do I do here? Which kind of goes back to your original point.
Right.
Have the website ready. So
one quick other question about getting back to that iTunes and the episodal thing and all that. I have another podcast which has 53 episodes. It's a weekly one. And I started doing the episodal thing, 1, 2, 3, but then I realized, as you were pointing out, that it makes so much more sense to, make them searchable. So, and so I stopped the episodes altogether, and I just started, naming them the searchable things, whatever I was doing. So, do I go back now, and because it is kind of, it does tell a story. The podcast I do is a travel podcast, and so I talk about the news of the day and stuff like that as it goes along. But I also have interviews that are sandwiched between the news of the day and the wrap up. So my question is, do I need to make them episodal? Do I need to start 1, 2, 3 again?
I guess go ahead, Jeff.
I am. I have a show that's called Ask the Tech Coach, and I did probably 8 of them, and that was 2 years ago. Again, no one cares for me. So I'm just starting it over. I'm taking those episodes because I did them in video, and I'm putting the YouTube embeds on those posts because it's, again, I'm a teacher, so it's how to use Google Slides and how to use WordPress and stuff like that. But when I relaunch this this year, it's going to be, hey, welcome to Ask the Tech Coach episode 1. We're moving on. I'm not going to be apologizing to an audience that doesn't exist, has moved on, just whatever, right? So, and I've got another show called Educational Podcasting today. It's just going to be, welcome to the show, here we go. I'm not going to say, hey, guys, I'm sorry, it's been 3 years and I never got it.
Please don't do that.
I hate when shows start off with apologies because I'm a new listener and I have to hear 20 minutes of an apology.
Yes.
Right. Got it. All right, guys.
Well,
thank you.
For me, like, I want to turn this into a podcast. I found it. It actually still smells like the basement. But it's a diary I kept when I was in a country band, and it's got some pretty entertaining stories in here. This to me would be serial. This is something I want you to listen to episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, because it's a story, and you're not going to understand the fact that we just fired Lee, the drummer, if you didn't listen to episode 2, where we fired Tom, the drummer. So that to me is a serial podcast. The other ones are just episodes. I would definitely keep the episode number because that doesn't make people listen in an order, because there are things like Amazon echoes and dots and things like that. And there will very soon, I'm actually a beta tester. In fact, I'm putting out an episode today at the School of Podcasting. I went back and was adding some things for my Amazon skill that is coming in at Libsyn. And in the process, if you have your app set to download all of Dave's shows, I just had Steve Stewart say, why do I have the first 7 episodes of the School of Podcasting in my iTunes? And I'm like, oh, crap. So, but episode numbers are going to come into play. I also think it's going to come into play with Siri. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. You can say, hey, Siri, subscribe me to TeacherCast.
Sorry, I couldn't find a relevant podcast to subscribe you to.
Wow.
Hey, Siri, subscribe me to Toastmasters 101.
Just to confirm, would you like to subscribe to the podcast Toastmasters 101 by Kim Cratch CDTM?
Yes. So that's the cool thing.
Yeah, I saw you do that on Facebook today.
Okay, I've subscribed you.
Yes. And I think eventually episode numbers are going to come into that. I think you'll eventually be able to say, hey, what's your name? Woman in the Tube, play episode 36 of the such and such cast. And I'm running into the same thing. One of the shows that I'm using as a beta tester for Libsyn is the Alexa cast. And Alexa is getting confused because her name is in the name of my show. And that's where I think in the future, these people that are doing like mompreneur and librarianpreneur, and they're making up wordspreneur, are going to go, yeah, because Siri and Lexi and Cortana are going to go, what are you talking about? So that could be something in the far off future that you go, ooh, I wish I wouldn't have named that.
So how do I fix that, Dave, right? Because my show is the TeacherCast podcast or the TeacherCast Educational Network. And you just said, sign me up for TeacherCast, and it didn't understand that, which I'm sure other people might go, If I just say sign up for School of Podcasting and you are the School of Podcasting, does it understand the difference there?
Let's try. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. Hello.
Hi, Big Shot Smarty Pants.
Yes. Subscribe me to the TeacherCast podcast. Are you listening? Hey Siri. Subscribe me to the TeacherCast podcast.
Sorry, I couldn't find a relevant podcast to subscribe you to.
Yeah, I don't know how you fix that at this point.
Wow. Fail.
Wow. Can you find mine?
What's yours called?
I bet Microsoft can do it for me.
Try the Puerto Vallarta travel show.
Ooh. Hey Siri. Subscribe me to the Puerto Vallarta travel show.
Sorry, I couldn't find a relevant
I may be
podcast to
pronouncing that
subscribe you
wrong.
to.
Yeah.
Is that the one that was taken out of iTunes?
No, that's my new one.
So, and don't feel bad when I ask, what's her name, the woman in the tube, to play my show on TuneIn. I often get the School of Nursing. I'll be like, hey Alexa. Oh, here, let's just try that. Play the School of Podcasting on TuneIn.
Getting the latest episode of School of Podcasting. Here it is from TuneIn.
So she did it fine. Alexa, stop. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I think that'll only get better as time goes on. But I know the developer at Libsyn was like, dude, I'm going to have a problem with your name. He's like, what? He goes, it works to start the skill, which is basically an app in the Amazon world. He goes, but when you go to tell the woman in the tube to fast forward or rewind or go to the next thing, he goes, the name of your show is causing a problem. And I'm like, there you go. That's why I'm a beta tester. Have fun with that. So awesome. Anything else we can help you with, Barry?
No, thanks for letting me tune in, and thanks you guys for all your help. I really appreciate it over the years.
Thanks for coming in, buddy. Thanks for being an awesome supporter.
My pleasure. Okay, brother.
So, yeah, I just realized I'm telling everybody to, I said the A word. I'm trying. I need to get in the habit of saying Lexi. Somebody said that's her nickname. Call her Lexi. And
we
I'm
haven't gotten into that yet because my kids are just learning how to talk. And one of the things is my kids will grab my phone and it says, "Hi, Jeff." And now I have these 3 4-year-olds looking at me and calling me Jeff and thinking it's the most important thing in the world. And they love it, but they're talking, because my daughter's name is Sarah. And so whenever I say, "Hey, Sarah," my phone goes off because it thinks that Sarah is Siri.
Nice. Yeah. It's not perfected yet, shall we say.
It's not perfected yet, but that does scare me a little bit. So with if you say, "Hey, subscribe to TeacherCast," and it's not on, clearly that's not just me.
Yeah.
But again, my job this weekend literally is 9 podcasts, redo all the descriptions, all the names. Do I call it TeacherCast? Do I call it the TeacherCast podcast? And I know Daniel's got a couple things on iTunes SEO that I always go through, and
right.
It's a topic, right?
Hey Siri, subscribe to the Logical Weight Loss podcast.
Just to confirm, would you like to subscribe to the podcast Logical Weight Loss Podcast by Dave Jackson?
Yes.
Wow. So that's pulling the entire word for you. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's getting there. I'm not gonna buy a.
Okay. I've subscribed you.
Yes. I don't know that I'm going to buy a Apple Home or whatever it's called. HomePods, because those are $350 when you can buy an Amazon Dot for $50.
Right.
Now it doesn't have that cool logo on it.
That's true.
So.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to getting the site up and
you're hoping February 1st.
I'm hoping February 1st. There's a lot of things that have to happen, and you know what? It's not gonna be that. Like, I'm never gonna get 1,000 posts up between now and then, but if I get some, right, then I can schedule things down. My big fear is you're gonna wake up, say February 2nd, look at your podcast app, and it's gonna have downloading 1 of 800, 2 of 800.
That's kind of what's happening with mine right now, and I'm like, so I need to fire, and I'm not sure. The only thing I can think of is there are some apps that you have set to download all, which God bless you. But now that I'm making a bunch of episodes back in my feed, it doesn't remember that it downloaded them years ago.
Right.
And it's downloading them again. So
right.
It's the kids.
It is. It's two of them. I got Batman here, and I got Gecko from the PJ Masks.
Nice.
So, Dave, I got to run, but let's do this again soon. And
yes.
You owe me a guest on my show too.
All right. Anytime, buddy.
All right. I'll talk to you later. And guys, thank you so much for the chat. I had a great time, and I have to go to my full-time job, which is dad.
Yeah. Well, that's a great job to have, buddy.
It's a wonderful job. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Mike. We'll see you. And let's see. Research that HomePod. Completely different deal. Audio. That's what I hear. It's supposed to sound much better. But I saw some people saying, look, if I really am worried about sound, like for me, I can take, I know I can do this with the Echo. I'm pretty sure I can take this and Bluetooth it into my sound bar at home. I am home, Dave, but in my living room and just blow the neighbors out because it's got the subwoofer and that whole 9 yards. So that's fun. I'm running out of rooms to put Amazon devices in because I have 2 Dots and an Echo and I have a Google in my kitchen. That's the question. And are you going to, this is where you have to go again. Like if I was a big music buff, then I might think about it. I definitely want to go to a store and hear one. That's the big difference. Because I have a little JBL speaker right here that I love this thing, man. I have blown people out of a room. I've taken this in as my PA system and talked to a group of about 25 people. And I plugged my laptop into this and literally blew them out of the room with a presentation. I am going to be messing with this mixer all day. Part of the problem this morning was that caused me to have a heart attack is originally Jeff could hear me via USB. And then he did something with his Wirecast and he couldn't hear me. And I'm like, oh crap. Because I couldn't hear Jeff. The reason I couldn't hear Jeff wasn't something I did. It was something he did. So I am going to play a lot with the recording thing because that's not cool. Had I known that, I would have fired up Hindenburg and hit record because, yeah. So I'm not sure what's going on. It's like I threw a new SD card in, I hit record and it's blinking at me. So obviously that needs something. I'm assuming it's the same, like it reads the same format of the card or whatever. But yeah, I have this JBL and then I have, this came free with my phone. I have this little JBL, which I used to hang outside of the shower. And now I have somewhere, I have this speaker that I actually put in the shower. So I'm actually listening to podcasts in the shower because that's the way I roll, I guess. But thank you all for showing up. Jim will be out a couple weeks here. So I'll be pulling in co-hosts and such. And so I appreciate you guys hanging around. He's doing, this is what's really cool about Jim. Because this is something that he created. Like this did not exist. And then Jim created this program for these interns, these high school interns. They come in and they get knowledge to really prep them for, I don't know if it's for college or what they're doing, but they basically then have the skills to like be productive. And so he's actually changing people's lives. To me, that's like cool that, hey, this didn't exist. Jim did this and now people are better for it. So it's cool. And I'm happy that he's doing it. It's a passion of his. And so I have no problem. Obviously I have no problem. It's a podcast. I mean, it should be. No, this is cool. And it makes me appreciate him more when he comes back. So yeah, it's a good guy. So I appreciate it. And me, I like to pull in new people. So I've got a couple of people I might pull in here just to keep things. Because some people are like, well, I should pick one person and have a permanent guest host kind of thing. And I'm like, let's mix it up. Throw people in here. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes I never will forget. There was one guy that I pulled in that didn't have a decent microphone. Like he was using the microphone on his thing. And I was like, ugh. So, but at any rate, have fun. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. There's no football. I don't know what we're going to do this weekend. So enjoy your weekend And we'll see you next week, I believe, right? It's the following week. Yes, next weekend is the 3rd. It's 2 weeks from today that there will be no Ask the Podcast Coach because I'll be at PodFest being roasted. So that'll be fun. So thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.